All right, we are recording. This is a special meeting of the Old Lyme Affordable Housing Commission, Wednesday, December 15th, 2021, 5:06 p.m. We have one agenda item for this meeting, which is going to be to continue the series of planning workshops we've been having before our regular meetings over the past couple of months. We'll run the same process as we did over the last couple of months, which is to hold our planning session between now and a bit before 6. We'll adjourn the special meeting and then reconvene at 6 p.m. for our December regular meeting using the same WebEx session. So there's no need to disconnect, but we'll try and set it up so we can take a break in between. So again, there's just the one agenda item, which is planning. I do have one topic to really dig into tonight, and that's going to be on engaging the consultants. So just to rewind, we had posted an RFP that expired back in November. I believe November 17th was the 19th was the close date for the RFP. We had no responses. Since then, I had met with the RiverCog folks twice. One was immediately after the RFP lapsed with no responses, because they had offered before to consider extending the RiverCog contract with SLR to provide us with some custom services from those consultants, using our grant funding to pay for it, which on the surface at least made sense, because they would already have access to all of the data that we would have to coordinate with them anyway. They were already in the mix. They have our data. So we took that. We had kept that as a placeholder, but after we had no responses, went back in and talked to them again, and actually said we'd like to explore it further. And so they went off and with their consulting group, SLR, came up with kind of a menu of options for us that they could do. And Amy and I met with them on Monday, actually, with the RiverCog planning team. That was Janice and Megan, along with two of the SLR consultants, to kind of go through what they had was a pre-proposal, just kind of options for us. And actually it looked great. So this will be the first of two bits of good news I'll have for us tonight. It looks like we have a really good handle on being able to engage the consultants that are already under contract for RiverCog to do work just for Old Lyme. And it would be funded by us. We would not have to go to a separate contract. It would just it would be just some redirection of invoicing, essentially. I had briefed Tim on this approach. He's on board. So that's the backdrop. Let me cut to the chase and try and take you through what we're actually going to be able to do. So hang on one sec. I got a screen I need to pull up for me. Let me get this right. Okay, there we go. So what that will be able to do for us, in addition to actually putting an A30J plan together for us, so we're already covered under the RiverCog budget for one public outreach meeting that would be a combination of the regional plan plus introducing some of the process for our local plan. Just a reminder there, the regional housing plan that RiverCog is sponsoring for the region is an overall housing plan. Then they have also put money in their budget to create 830J plans for 13, I think, of the 17 towns that are in the lower Connecticut River Valley region. And we are among those. So they actually have budget to write a document for us that will be our 830J plan, that will be able to basically feed them content, and they'll do some of the lifting for us, which I'm very happy about. On top of that, they are prepared to do an additional public outreach session just for us, that would focus just on Old Lyme's data and soliciting input from the community, and basically doing the kind of engagement process that we've been discussing. So they would create some of the content for that, do some facilitation, have some of the technology to do like real-time feedback on some of the options and ideas. So that sounds really good. They would also be able to, as part under community engagement, do a story map website for us that was kind of similar to what we saw for the regional plan. And they actually gave me an example of one that they'd done for Farmington that I can show you tonight. It's online. I'll give you the URL, but I have it punched up and I can show you. And then the third thing they would be able to do for us is actually do that build out analysis, that capacity analysis that we had discussed. And the great news is they can do these things, and it looks like it's going to fit nicely inside the 10K budget that we had allocated for this. So very encouraged about this. I wanted to run it by all of you for any thoughts, feedback, questions, concerns before I actually sent them off now to say, okay, write the proposal and we'll move along, and over the next couple of weeks, put us in a position to actually do that extension to the RiverCog contract. But that's the backdrop. So basically, there's three things they're prepared to do for us that would all fit within the budget. The first is a custom workshop, which would be there. We already have one in the budget where they would do an initial public outreach session that again would combine both the regional plan and the local affordable housing plan. They're prepared to do a second one just for us, and that could be in person or virtual. They're prepared to create a website for us that would be a story map similar to what RiverCog has now in the town of Farmington, which I'll show you in just a minute. And they're also prepared to do not just the needs analysis and the general housing analysis that we saw from Don Poland, but actually do a Old Lyme specific capacity analysis using our zoning regulations, our plan of conservation development, and public records in town. So, and all seems to fit within our budget and our grant. So let me just punch up the town of Farmington website, and I can just show you what we're talking about here.
It seems like more than we even asked for. So, I mean, it seems amazing.
Yeah, I think what's the nice part is this is probably way more than we would have gotten maybe from a consultant answering the RFP.
Yeah, and on top of that, Bill, there's the synergy that they're already working on this for other towns. They have the templates. They have the data already wrangled. So yeah, I think it can be a really efficient way to go, and it looks like it's playing out that way. So can you see this website that I just put up?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, I'll just scroll a little bit, but it's not unlike the RiverCog one. So you can see this was done for Farmington. It's got the tabs. It'll have the actual plan document linked, so you can let people do that. It'll have the strategies. This is an earlier version, so ours might have the adopted strategies or the proposed strategies, not the potentials. They have a little video in there that's a recording of one of their workshops, some background text. They go through the definitions of what's affordable housing. Am I scrolling too fast for folks?
No, I think it's
just trying to give you a taste. I'll send you the link to this so you can dig in a little more detail if you like. Who needs it? It's nicely graphically rich, looks good. How much affordable housing does Farmington currently have?
It's excellent.
Some graphics. What does affordable housing look like?
Oh, this.
We might be able to get some local photos for this. this is very similar to what you'll see on the Rivercog site right now for the overall housing plan. So I think these are stock photos, not actuals.
Mm-hmm.
They bring up accessory dwelling units.
You know, in Old Lyme, they're gonna want actuals.
Yeah.
But
Then,
this is great. I think this is a really, really good layout.
yep. So I think to Bill's point, this is potentially more than we could have expected from
Yeah.
going with a separate consultant, because they've already, and we have this example of what they've already done. So
Yeah.
anyway, let me get back to my main tab here. I will send you the link to this again. Okay, should be back to us.
So the people that did the Farmington recap, they are the same people or same firm or whatever that we would be tapping into at Rivercog?
Yep. So they already have the tools and the templates and the technology ready to go.
Okay.
Super. That's really great.
So if this looks pretty good to me, and I'm exceptionally happy to have some additional writers on the case. So if this looks acceptable to us, I will take the next step and write back to them and say, okay, flesh this out into an actual executable proposal, and we can move forward pretty quickly on it. And I don't know if we'll get it done before the first of the year with the holidays right in front of us, but they seem ready to go. So it's possible we could have this done. Go ahead, John.
Oh, sorry, Michael. Out of the 15 grant, so this would consume what amount of money?
10, maybe 11.
Okay.
Looks like there's some
Okay,
ranges
yeah,
in
so we'll
what
still have some left over that we could use. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So and we do have till October 2022 to spend the grant before we have to return it.
Right. So in addition, so it would be the website with that sort of those graphics that you just displayed, kind of a la Farmington, and then also the workshop and potentially a second in-person or virtual workshop.
Yeah. So under Rivercog's budget, we'll get an 830J document
Mm-hmm.
will be submittable to the state to fulfill our 830J requirement, plus one virtual workshop. And remind me on this, we need to also discuss they're looking for a target date for that first workshop sometime in late January, early February. Okay, so under the Rivercog budget, we'll get that first virtual workshop plus the 830J plan preparation. That'll include our strategy, the background data, the housing data that has already been compiled by Rivercog, and an action plan. If you look at that Farmington website, you can see the template that they used for the 830J plan, and it follows pretty closely with the Department of Housing guide that was published. So not surprisingly at all. But so we'll get one community engagement workshop plus the document under the Rivercog budget, and then we would supplement that to get a second community engagement workshop that could be either in person or virtual, and we can assess that when we get closer based on the state of the pandemic and how people would want to what would be most effective. We'll also get the website, the story map website, and the third thing we would get would be the build out capacity analysis that would supplement, that would be just for Old Lyme. And to my mind, at least, that fills in a big blank on our strategy. We'll have demand plus capacity instead of just demand. So it'll give us a sense of what's doable.
Okay, great. And then we still have maybe 4,000 or 5,000 left over to use through October.
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
So I'll stop talking for a bit and just poll, actually. Karen, thoughts?
I think it's amazing. It's more than we could have wished for.
Thanks, Karen. I'm feeling pretty good about it. Not to tip the conversation much. Bill?
Ditto. And just repeating again, I think I can't imagine we would have been able to get all of this. I was thinking our a consultant would have helped us plan some community engagement, and this just seems so complete. So good job.
Thanks, Bill. John?
I think it sounds fantastic. We're not reinventing the wheel, and it's a lot of bang for the buck. I think we're doing way better than we would have on our own. So, excellent job, Michael.
Thanks, John. And George?
I just add that, it's nice that it fulfills the 8:30 deadline. Certainly helps us there. I'd be very interested in the capacity issue that from previous discussions, that has been the one thing which I think is a unique to each individual town. So as much as this is a cookie cutter type of solution to the 830 GA, it really is going to be interesting how they approach capacity. Demand, I think, is pretty self-explanatory, but capacity is, I think, is a critical issue town by town, and it's different because of the individual assets of each of the towns. So that's going to be very interesting how they handle that.
Great. So then I will press on, and first thing tomorrow, I will get back with the Rivercog folks and the SLR folks and keep this moving. It sounds like they're going to be ready to move pretty quickly. I don't know if they will have something ready before the first of the year. I'll just give a heads up that we're going to want to stay tuned. I don't know what the procedural details are on this, but it's possible we're going to want to convene a quick special meeting when they come back with a final proposal to accept it. So that would be assuming that the proposal represents what I just said in the conversations we've had up to now. I envision that would be a pretty quick approval, but I'll see what the requirements are process wise. So watch this space, and I will keep you apprised by email on how the next round of conversations go.
Michael, it's Jen. Did you want to talk about just the calendar as far as that first virtual or
coming up? I have that.
Oh, okay.
The comms plan. Yes, definitely. So
Okay.
You're reading my mind on this one, Jen. So one thing, one of the first things we're going to want to do that they've asked for is a potential date for that first virtual community engagement session. I had sent out a kind of a dense spreadsheet with my notes on a communication plan. It'd be difficult to display that. Does everybody have that?
I do.
Yeah, I can pull it up.
This is the one with the working draft of the communication plan.
Yeah. So if you can kind of skip down, this reflects the 3 phases we had talked about at one of our earlier planning sessions. The first phase being just to get some background information out, which entailed some outreach, which we did minimally, updating our website, which we did do, getting some of the stakeholders contacted, which we did do, particularly the Board of Selectmen. And that was to be done up through the holidays, and here we are. The second phase gets into a more of an in-depth conversation with the stakeholders as we actually come up with the elements of our strategy. to introduce that, get feedback. And that's where we're going to be starting the new year. So I have 4 things on the phase 2 list right now. The first is going to be to meet with the Board of Selectmen. And I had talked to Tim about this briefly, but I'm going to try and get us on the Board of Selectmen agenda for one of their meetings in January, just to take the Board of Selectmen through the whole process that we're looking at for the first 6 months or 5 months of 2022. What's going to happen when, how adoption happens, get some understanding and some guidance and some buy-in from them on what that looks like. So that would take the form of a Board of Selectmen meeting in January. I put another item on there. I got a heads up from Town Hall that the Old Lyme Events, the magazine that we all get in the email, is going to have a February deadline, and I think it would be a great idea to put an article in the events publication, because that gets direct mailed to all Old Lyme taxpayers. So we wouldn't even have to use our budget. We could just submit an article to that and use it as a direct mailer for everyone in town. And I think my sense is we'll have enough information to share that would be useful by February. We probably do now. We just have to write it up. So there's that events article. The third one is what we need to talk about. So that would be the first public forum. That would be the one that would be organized. The content would be organized by the consultants with our guidance and input. And it would be a virtual meeting, and they are aiming to have it in late January or early February. And they're actually looking for some target dates for that. It's kind of a blank sheet right now. We can pop up a calendar, and I assume we're going to want to do this on a week. They were talking about a weekday evening, like from 7 to 9 p.m. It would be a 2-hour virtual session in the evening, was what they were proposing. Just get a calendar up in front of me here. So, and let me look at one other thing which I had looked at, which is the town calendar, just to make sure. Last time they did a workshop, it was sitting right on top of a pretty significant zoning meeting, so that stifled attendance, I think. All right, so I'm looking at the February 22 meeting. We have one slot, which is the 16th. The first week, so the first, second, third, and fourth, which is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of February. There's a 7 p.m. Board of Finance meeting on February 1st. We probably want to avoid that. There's the other meetings on Wednesday and Thursday are at 5:30, so that should be clear by 7. Board of Selectmen is at 5:30 on the 7th. There's a Harbor Management Committee meeting on the 8th. The 9th is packed with meetings. Thursday the 10th is open. Tuesday the 15th is open. Wednesday the 16th is our meeting. And the 17th has a tree commission meeting on the 7th at 4 p.m. So my sense is looking at one of those, either Wednesday the 2nd, Thursday the 3rd, or Thursday the 10th as the targets. That avoids Fridays. Just to put it as early as possible in February and dodge any currently scheduled board and commission meetings.
I like Thursday the 10th. just because it might give them a little bit more time, holidays and all, and that not, and us to give us a review in January at our January meeting. We could, give any feedback maybe that they have for whatever they've done to date. And then, I'm just thinking that later in that month, it might be a little bit too late, and earlier in that month, it just seems like a little too early. I don't know. But the 10th seems a reasonable date, and Thursdays seem to be a good date.
Okay. What I don't see up here is Board of Ed meetings.
First Wednesday of every month.
Okay. So Thursday, the 10th is first choice.
That's just my first choice.
Makes
Yeah.
sense? Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, I think earlier might be too early, just to try to get a handle on everything.
Yeah, we want to get this right. This will be the first time out.
Right.
I had actually had this conversation with the consultants. I said, it's a very, very important meeting. We want to get off on the right foot in this public conversation.
But you have to give them, I would assume, more than one date.
Yeah, it looks like Tuesday, the 15th is an option if that's, which looks pretty clear from a town perspective. And
Yeah,
there's Wednesday, the 16th, which is our meeting. We could go for a marathon if you wanted for, we have a meeting at 5 o'clock, but that would make for a very long evening for us.
well, I think in general, Tuesdays and Thursday, I don't know because of sports and things with the high school and everything, but I get a sense that Tuesdays and Thursdays are better than Monday, Wednesday, Fridays as far as evening events go. But I'm not 100%. If somebody else has kids in school or whatever, they can chime in.
All right. And actually Thursday, the 3rd, which we could put as like the last choice, just has the sustainable low Lyme at 5:30. And I expect that they'll be wrapped up close to 7, if not. So that would be, so it looks like our hierarchy is Thursday, the 10th, Tuesday, the 15th, Thursday, the 17th, or Thursday, the 3rd of February.
That sounds good. Yeah, I think Thursday the 3rd is pretty aggressive, but
I think so too. Actually, Thursday, if they want to go later, we could go to Thursday, the 24th too.
yeah.
Actually, yeah, or
I'd rather do that as the last choice than the 3rd. I just
Yep.
want to, like you said, we got to get it out of the gate correctly versus.
I would honestly, I'd do the 24th as the third choice before
Yep.
the 3rd as the third choice. Hopefully, they'll be able to make our first or second choice. But
so tell you what, I'll give them 15th, 17th, and 24th, and keep the 3rd in our pocket in case all three of those, in case we get 3 strikes.
Sounds good.
Okay. Done. Okay. Let's shift back to the plan. So that would be our first public forum. Then Jen and I had talked about this online briefly, but as we think about some of the policy and potentially regulatory changes that we're going to suggest exploring, and incentives, thinking it might be a good idea to get some input from potential developers on what would it take, what would make Old Lyme a more attractive place to develop affordable housing. And that could take the form of either sort of a Survey Monkey kind of survey that we would send out to some developers. We could just do some direct outreach and have some conversations, but that's in there kind of as a placeholder in that second phase, just to get considering developers as one of the stakeholders in our planning, because those will be the folks that actually need to come in and create the actual units, and have some form of outreach to them, whether it's through a survey some conversations or a combination of those, but I'll open that for some discussion too.
I'll just open it up that I'm totally in favor of just reaching right out to developers and that have done projects like this before in the Connecticut area, and just seeing what their incentives are. So, obviously they need to have a certain profit margin. I wonder what that profit margin is, and the longevity of the project, things like that. So from a development standpoint, I think it would be appropriate, and we get a lot more information in a lot shorter period of time that's more pertinent to it if we just had one-on-one conversations with them versus sending out a generic survey that just says like, hey, would you come to Old Lyme and build something? So to me, it would be more meaningful if we just had a little task force that went out there and just met with developers and just said, let's just have a conversation. We're just trying to get information, and here's what we're trying to do for our town. And, how could you help us, or would you be interested, or what would it take, kind of thing.
And Jen, you're talking about private, not for profit as well as for profit, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm talking about like commercial apartment builders, that like you see all these places going up around us in East Lyme and Waterford and Old Saybrook, and they are for-profit developers for sure. And how did they pick East Lyme, over Old Lyme? Well, I kind of know what the answer to that is, but but so there's things like that, and we have the standard objections of sewers and that kind of thing, but I think what do we have to do to make Old Lyme attractive to X, and then is Old Lyme willing to do X, to get people to come here. It's a web, right? So it's a web. So we can't just have one angle on this. So I would just like to get their opinion on what it takes. What profit margin is it that they're looking for? That instead of building luxury townhomes behind the high school, they build affordable townhomes behind the high school.
Well, there's a great resource in town.
Yeah, go ahead.
Rob Busari, I don't know if you know him, but he built Spinnaker in East Lyme. He's built a number of them, he and his family. So he'd be a good guy to reach out to because he's an Old Lyme person.
Yeah, things like that. I think John would be great. I mean, that's where I would totally want to, if you want me to, I'll spearhead that. I'm totally want to get engaged with these developers to try to figure out why and where and how they choose their locations.
So along those lines, I was thinking of the article that was in the Day and that you sent us, Michael. So that individual, at least in the article, presented himself as someone who would really love to see a development in Old Lyme, and with connections to Old Lyme. And obviously in the article, it points out that the sewers are the problem, and they're looking at the, but they're looking at seeing if, septics that he's, are possible. But I guess along those lines, there was a piece to me that said, if the reason, it certainly made sense for the, I don't know what board, I forget now, the zoning board, is it? Whoever said, we can't go ahead with allowing them to connect to the sewers because we would lose $2 million because it would be a commercial project, right? I don't know who.
It's the Clean Water. That is the Clean Water Act, the federal of 1987, and that's who funds the sewers. So right. That actually is the hurdle for connecting. It can't be any new development; it has to be existing.
Right. So the only thing I thought about is, so here we have and that is that's a state act or federal?
Federal. That's a federal act.
It's federal. Okay. And so the $2 million is federal money?
It's a combination, yes.
I think it's a combination.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess my thought was saying, so here we have, again, if it's federal versus state, it's a whole different ball game. But we have state agencies wanting us to promote as affordable housing, and yet one of the not being able to go ahead and do something because an agency would prohibit us from taking the grant money. It sounded like more that wasn't that we couldn't do it. We would lose $2 million in grant funds, right?
Yeah, the restriction there, Bill, is, and this actually surfaced during the committee work we did last year, which is that sewers that are built using Clean Water Act sponsored funding can be used for remediation purposes, but they can't be used for economic development or new development. So there's a restriction on that, and this, I think, goes on a list of, in addition. So I'll get a little off topic here, but as we come up with our recommendations, I think there's going to need to be a category of recommendation that's in legislative activism. And this is going to be one of them, to push back on that. And even though it won't solve it for tomorrow, we're going to want to engage our legislators to say, this is at cross purposes with some of the other objectives that are out there. And the other one that's would be right next to it in this category that we've already talked about is adopting and promoting advanced septic technology as an alternative to sewers. So basically, under a large category of wastewater infrastructure, we're identifying areas that are both opportunities and that are restrictions that would be under the category of legislative activism. So we're going to want to hold this thought. And here's an example of it right now, where we see there's a developer willing to come in and do some work and create a fair count of affordable housing. It's like 60 to 70 units, but it's getting stymied by water treatment, and some of it's due to that restriction on the CWA funds. So at least something to explore. I'm sure it's more complicated than we're reading it right now, but it's at least a question to ask, if not a statement to make.
I think two things with that. One is, I still think that particular individual might be somebody good to reach out to. And yep. Two, it was exactly, I was thinking, what legislators do we need to, discuss to see that we have one agency hamstringing not so much hamstringing another agency, but hamstringing the objectives of major objectives of state goals. So and again, yes, that would definitely be it's legislative fixes, legislative lobbying, that kind of thing. But it seems ripe for something.
And not just for our plan. This needs to go in the regional plan as well.
Mike, when I was talking the other meeting about new, more advanced technologies for septic systems, I think this is what I was talking about, is the opportunity to reach out to developers who are not technically the look them up in the yellow pages developers, but people that have a desire, like Bill is saying, to just solve one problem and not create another problem. And I'd point out that I've watched a property, they call it the old Herb Chambers dealership that was never built, over at the intersection of 395 and 95, that was recently sold. It was 3.5 acre piece of land that the problem was they didn't have any town water and didn't have any town sewer. So they thought that project would never get developed, no matter what it was. Well, now a developer is coming in, they're putting in I guess a truck stop combination with a convenience store and everything else. And what I read about the project was, interestingly, a very sophisticated advanced technology on using those more technological based abilities on the sewer. The water was not so much the problem; it was the sewer.
It is
And
going to, what I read, it is going to be on-site septic. Yeah.
Yeah, what I like about Diebold's approach is that he is trying to work the best he possibly can. He suggested 20 acres to be set aside for this development, but he's also willing to purchase land adjacent and build out the best technology. I think I go along with Bill. If I were the committee, and again, it's up to everybody, but I would definitely talk to him about what is it that he needs to see in the town of Old Lyme to make him encouraged to proceed to try to solve that issue. It may be solvable by the technologies that are available now, where it wasn't in the past.
Exactly.
So, Jen, you're on. Why don't we start by coming up with a list of the potential points of outreach?
Yeah. Yep. I'll do that. I'll send that to you. Yeah, by Friday.
Okay. We're
And also,
always-
if anybody else, you know,
ahead.
send me your suggestions. So, you know, don't want it to be just me.
Thanks, Jen. Okay, well, I want to visit the third phase of the communication before we break. So this is where this would be at the point where we essentially have a draft plan, where we've had an initial round of public outreach to collect ideas and feedback and to get the information out. And at some point, aiming for this March to April timeframe, we're going to need to have a draft plan, a fairly advanced draft, if not final. And at that point, we're going to have some decisions to make. So this is the point where I think we would invoke the add-on consultant engagement to have an Old Lyme specific, ideally in person, but depending on how the state of things are, potentially another virtual, but to actually come out with more of an advanced draft plan, and get what I would say is pretty much the last round of public input into that would put us in a position to actually post a draft plan on or about March 15th. And that date is important because when we go to adoption, we're going to want to leave a good chunk of April and May to actually go into the adoption phase of this, where the draft plan is accepted as a final plan and is prepared for submission to the state. Now, if we're going to have a public hearing as part of that, 830J allows for a public hearing but does not require it. So if we're going to have a public hearing, we need to post a draft plan 35 days in advance, which puts us into mid-March in order to keep everything on track for that June 1st deadline. So that kind of wedges us in to have our second public meeting in early March. And then when we think back about the dates we just picked, that would put us more towards like the 10th or the 15th of February rather than the 24th, because we don't want to have a public forum and then have another one 2 or 3 weeks later. We want to leave some time in there to actually process the input we get.
Michael, can you just clarify, do you mean a public hearing as in not a yay or nay vote as far as they approve our plan or they don't? It's just a input session.
Yeah, so a public hearing, the likes that you would see.
Not a referendum.
It's not a referendum. Nope,
Right.
It's where the draft plan would be discussed and the public would have a chance. It would happen most likely at one of our meetings. We see these routinely at the zoning commission. When there's an application they're considering, they have a public hearing where people come in and express their thoughts to the zoning commission. The planning commission had a public hearing just prior to them adopting the 10-year plan of conservation and development back in February of this year. So it's a formal legal process.
Okay.
There are legal postings involved.
But
There's
it's
agendas
not
to be
binding
posted.
upon anything.
No, it's
Yeah.
just a hearing where folks get to come and talk.
Okay.
Michael, are we
It's
thinking,
optional in this case.
are we thinking, Michael, though, that there would be two public meetings prior to that? In other words, two workshops, if you will, or would that be the second workshop?
No, it would be separate from that, and it's very different from the workshop. It's basically it's more like when we have public comment at our meetings, people have an opportunity to come up and talk to the commission.
Like it would be at a meeting, we're conducting business, we're going to maybe approve that plan, possibly, or move to say this is our final plan, blah, blah. And then, of course, an amount of time has to go on. But are we talking about scheduling two workshops prior to that?
Yes, the first workshop would be that one that we're aiming for early February, mid-February at the latest, and that would be that's the one that Rivercog is sponsoring, and it would involve the regional plan plus introducing some of the background information and thinking on the local affordable housing plan. The second one would be the one that we would add on with our funding, and would be specific to Old Lime's plan, affordable housing plan. And at that point, we would expect to have a more advanced idea of what our strategy was, and really have more of a
specific.
Yeah, more of a specific conversation about this is what the kind of proposals that we're looking at, get some final feedback on that, and then take that input from the community and relatively quickly use that to create essentially a final draft 830J plan at that point.
So I guess what I'm saying is maybe we should, and when you said at our expense, or however you phrased it, you were talking about the fact that that's what, through Rivercog and the consultant, that's the second workshop is what they would actually be providing,
Yes,
rather than the original. Okay.
that
So
would be what we would buy up with our grant.
Would it be good for us to plan a date for that, come up again with maybe some dates? Because if that has to take place, you're really talking about shortly that, like March, and then at our next public meeting would be the time that we would have that hearing.
Yeah, and I think it would depend on a couple of things, Bill. So to your first question, yeah, I've got this on the table. It would need to be in early March if we're going to have time to process the input from that into it and incorporate it into a final draft plan that we would need to post by mid-March. So the public hearing would need to be after March 15th. So we would probably do that. I can't remember exactly the date of what our March commission meeting would be, but it would be that. Let me see if I still have the calendar up.
16th.
It'll be the 16th. Yep. Oh, so I'm sorry, I got that wrong. We would definitely not have it. So it would need to be 30. It would need to be at our April meeting. So we would have a public hearing on April 20th.
Okay.
Which would, if we decide to do it, I want to take some input from the town council and the Board of Selectmen on whether this is something we should do. Since we're having two workshops, we're planning to have two workshops in advance. I wanted to leave a placeholder for it though, and make sure our timeline accommodated it. So if we were to hold a public hearing, it would most likely be as part of our regularly scheduled commission meeting on April 20th.
Okay.
And
So
then,
then mid-March could be the second workshop, mid-March to even, right?
although, so again, backing up from April 20th, we would need to have the final draft plan that would be the subject of that public hearing posted by March 3, 4,
10th, something like that.
35 days would be about the 17th. So we would have to have the second public forum, not the public hearing, the second workshop early enough in March so that we could take the input from that public forum and incorporate it into the final draft plan that would need to be posted sometime in the third week of March.
Right. So first week in March, or maybe the very, certainly by March 10th,
Yep.
have to have the second workshop. However, it is, pretty much, obviously there'll be input here to make it, things that come up from town. But pretty much the plan is going to be written, right?
It'll be pretty well crystallized by early March. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess my only point is it might be good to see if we can nail down a second date, whether we had the hearing or not. It would still be good, and I think having those workshops maybe 3 weeks apart is not at all a bad idea, and then so it might be a good idea to try to schedule that sooner rather than later with the people we're working with.
And we've got it pretty well narrowed down. If we're going Tuesdays and Thursdays, it's basically going to be March 8th or 10th or 15th or 17th. Depending on when, and we'll see what we actually come down with for the February meeting. Because we are going to need time to incorporate the input. Okay, I've got those noted. $15 or $17. Okay. All right, we're coming up to the top of the hour here. I want to give us a couple of minutes break. All right, any last quick comments? We can't amend this agenda, but if we want to take up any of this in our next meeting, we can amend the agenda to take it up. And if there are no quick comments, I'll look for a motion to adjourn this meeting, and then we'll break for 5 minutes and reconvene as the regular meeting.
Does Jen, I'll make a motion to adjourn?
Bill, second.
Discussion? Hearing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you very much. That was another productive session. It's exactly 6 o'clock and the meeting is adjourned. We'll reconvene at 6:05 for the December regular meeting. Thanks, folks. See you in a couple minutes. There you are, Jen.
Hey, bud, how you doing?
Good.
Good, good. Sorry, I'm like in between 3 computers here, so
I got 2 rolling here.
crazy. So
Well, it does 2 things for me. One, I can actually use the link that I sent when I start the meeting. I can use the link that I sent out to connect to it, make sure it works. And the
yeah,
other one is if I'm displaying something, I can see what everybody else sees.
yeah. No, it's all good. Yeah, so I think that's a great outcome on Rivercog. I think that's going to be phenomenal, really. So,
Yeah.
if they come through with that sort of stuff that they did for Farmington, I think that's going to be really, really beneficial for us.
I think so too. I feel
Yeah.
I am.
And we're going to be able to meet with them ahead of time as far as like, getting ready for the first virtual or in-person meeting and
Oh
stuff.
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, that's not going to be something we ask for. That's going to be a definite.
Okay. All right, cool.
And the timeline's going to be a little tight, but I think we can do this.
Yep. It's winter. We have nowhere else to go. But
Okay, looks like we have everybody back. John, you still on the line?
I certainly am.
Okay. I will call the meeting to order then. This is now the regular meeting of the Old Lyme Affordable Housing Commission. It's Wednesday, December 15th, 2021. It is 6:06 p.m. In attendance, we have Jen Miller, Karen Winters, John Coughlin, Bill Beluzzi, George Clow, myself, Michael Foliano. All right. First up on the agenda, we have a little housekeeping to do. We have the 2 sets of minutes from the special meeting and the regular meeting, both held on November 17th. So without further ado, get my notes going here. For the purpose of discussion, I'll look for a motion to approve the minutes of the special meeting held on November 17th.
So moved.
Jen Miller, second.
Thank you, Bill and Jen. Hey, any discussion, changes to the minutes, corrections? Hearing none, we'll go to vote. All in favor of approving the minutes from the special meeting held on November 17th, say aye.
Right.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the minutes of the regular meeting held on November 17th. Again, for discussion purposes, we'll look for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
John, thank you.
I'll second.
Karen? Okay, got everybody in. Any discussion?
In item number 5, there's just a little typo. I think it should be to be approved. There's a word missing.
Okay, regular, item 5. I don't see what you're looking at, Bill.
Well, of course, I didn't run that, so there's nothing in there. I'd have to pull it up. Hold on one second. I don't know if it's worth it if you don't see it.
Yeah, I just did a word search on approved in that document. I'm not seeing it.
Maybe let me. It was regular minutes, right? I'm sorry, it wasn't approved, it was invoked. The sentence reads, second sentence in that number 5. It was noted that the commission has an advisory responsibility on such matters.
Will need to be
Like
invoked.
need to be invoked. I'm sorry it took so long.
Very
I
good.
said, okay, that's it.
Noted.
All right. End of my discussion.
Thanks, Bill.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Not on my end.
Okay. We'll go to a vote then to accept the minutes as corrected. All in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Any opposed? Very good. Done. All right, back to the agenda. Okay. I didn't put a full update section on here. We've been working hard this year. We don't have a lot of updates outside. We have another business matter coming up, so I'm focusing the updates on the McCulloch family open space option and the work we've been doing on that. So I will continue what I believe to be very good news. We had Jen and I met with Amanda Blair and Evan Griswold, the co-chairs of the Open Space Commission. Was it last Monday, Jen? And had a conversation with them, a follow-up conversation on the approach that we had proposed, and it was a very fruitful conversation. And essentially, I'll cut to the chase, is that it was pretty well endorsed with some questions. But in general, the approach where the town would retain ownership of the envelopes, that 830G compliant or 830G qualified affordable housing units would be built, one each on the 2 envelopes. For discussion purposes, we had talked about roughly a starter home of 1,100 square feet, 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath, just a basic starter home that would target an income level of 60 to 80% AMI. Those homes would be sold to qualified buyers under 830G, and the land would be leased to the owners of those properties, such that the entire cost of the mortgage, the qualified utility and other costs of ownership, and the lease would all continue to qualify the whole package as affordable. And that the expectation would be that the original purchase price of those two envelopes would be recovered over time from the lease revenue. We did go through the rationale that it would make it easier to attract a developer because it would lower the upfront costs, that it would foster the barn raising look and feel to the project, that could help attract local expertise and potentially local funding, that it could simplify the handling of the two properties currently owned by Hope that are abutting those two envelopes, or abutting the open space, and would help us with solving some of the questions and the proposal that was put forward by Hope, and that this was precedented based on the original approach taken by Old Lyme Affordable Housing with the 3 units of deed restricted single family homes that are currently in town, and it's being currently used by the town of Lyme. We went through the implications that the town would incur some administrative and maintenance overhead that would again potentially be offset by lease revenue. That the town, if it retained ownership, would not means that the land would not be subject to tax revenue, again offset by lease revenue over time. The town would assume some risks associated with with owning the land, such as default on the lease, and that arrangements would need to be made for continuing access and maintenance of the access road, that regardless of what approach is taken, is owned and will continue to be owned by the town. And that's not unique to this approach. So that's what we walked through, and along with some numbers, and I sent you out a sheet on some back of the envelope numbers. And the bottom line is, to all parties of that meeting, it sounded good. It looks like the numbers work, at least based on the back of the envelope. And the result of that meeting with Amanda and Evan was to move forward and take it in front of the full Open Space Commission, with the suggestion that we take a proposal forward as a joint proposal to the Board of Selectmen, having ironed out some of the details. So I joined the Open Space Commission meeting on Friday and went through it for the full commission. And again, it was a good discussion. Some questions. There's no doubt there's still plenty of open questions and items, but the overall approach and the numbers seem to work. And we have a collaboration going, and it looks like we're going to move forward in January to go meet with the Board of Selectmen, probably invite the Board of Finance in, since there's some revenue flows involved, and the Planning Commission, just to make sure that the land use process was all feasible, and talk about the road. But essentially, we're in business on this proposal as we drafted it, and it was discussed and accepted with no major modifications, just some additional questions posed by the Open Space Commission. So that's in a nutshell. We're going to move forward at this point, working with Amanda and Evan and the Open Space Commission to set up a date with the Board of Selectmen to put this in front of them, get their feedback both on some of the details, the overall strategy, some of the details, and what the process would look like. We had talked about at some point relatively soon a building committee that would take this forward, that would likely have representatives from our commission, from the Open Space Commission, from some of the land use, from the community, and then move forward to actually identify a developer and take funding and take the project forward. So that's the readout. So far, so good, and we have a good partnership going with the Open Space Commission. So I'll open that for discussion. Any questions on that back of the envelope? You might walk through the numbers.
Not a question, but I was just doing some quick math. So with two houses looking like it would take, be the town would recoup its money over like 25 years. That's the something to that. I did 400 a month times 200 a month times
Yep.
2, right? So I think it's excellent. The figures look good. I mean, for affordability, certainly.
And these are, I set this at the 60% AMI level, Bill, because typically when you get into these projects, my experience at least is that the costs don't go down. So if we can qualify at 60%, that gives us some headroom because the maximum would be 80%. So if we target more towards the 60% end, that'll, I don't know if interest rates go up. If the other thing that's happened over the last year is the AMI has come down. So the AMI did not grow it went from, I think it was around $92,000 in 2020, and it's down to 88 change.
86.
Yep. So if interest rates go up, and looks like the Fed starting to move in that direction as of today, and the AMI doesn't go in a directionally favorable way, we have some headroom. I'll also say that there's a slight divergence here, but I had sent along that article about the Madison project.
Mhm.
In that article, there was a link to their actual affordability plan, which gave some really good pointers to some state resources on for that, what the allowable credits are for cost of ownership. So this it helped tighten up the back of the envelope a little bit. These are still course estimates, but the consensus with the Open Space Commission and with their leadership when Jen and I met with them is that this looks doable.
Yeah, and I think that 60 for me 60% would be a great target, just to keep that going. And that building costs are always increasing, so they're never going to go down. But also the aspect of the community, which I know John and others were purporting, that relies, this $100,000 hypothetical home relies on a lot of donations. And so I think the community engagement piece is going to be really critical for us to get the community of Old Lyme behind this and make sure that Eversource and maybe Anderson Windows or Pella or Home Depot or these other large corporations also pitch in to contribute to these homes. And that will be critical to getting to hit whatever this budget is that we set.
I know that, and I just happened to see him again last night, but the pastor, Steve Younghite at the Congregational Church, okay, where are we? When is it? When can we start building? When can we get the people ready to go? So there's, I think that it's not far-fetched to think that the community engagement and donations I think it's very likely that it's going to happen.
Yeah, no, I agree. I would say it may be, I'm not sure if it's incumbent on us or incumbent on the authority or however it's going to be, that who leads the project management of this project, right? So we have this project. This commission is not going to manage the project management of building these houses. We need to figure out who that is. And those people need to know that there are resources out there that are available from Eversource and Home Depot and Lowe's and that nature of things. And for sure, all the churches of all faiths in our community are willing and able to help. So it's just a matter of how do we transition? We might want to think about that a little bit more. Like, how do we transition from a commission saying, aha, here, this is what we're going to allow you to do, and we've got the town all set up to receive this. But then how do we make that a reality with, what does that look like? Is that another committee, a different body, a project manager that we have to hire, or the town has to hire?
Jen, my
I think you're gonna need
expectation
a
would be that
building committee.
the selectmen would seat a building committee on this.
Yeah,
And
I
that,
mean, that's my
yeah.
expectation, but we haven't
at least
formalized.
one of us would be on that building committee.
Yeah.
Someone who knew what questions to ask and was familiar with it, along with other knowledge holders and stakeholders.
Oh, yeah, no, I do foresee that happening. I just say we haven't got there yet, so
No.
just saying that there's a step in between getting donations from a church and volunteers.
The larger actually materials.
So I think the next steps are going to be to get the Board of Selectmen, Finance, Planning on board with this overall strategy and approach.
Yeah.
Then at that point, we get a green light, seat a building committee, and then the execution plan takes shape from there.
Yeah. No,
John, are you trying to get in?
forward with that.
The other thing too, is depending on who ultimately does the project. I mean, if it's a private developer that doesn't maybe builds but doesn't do affordable housing, that's one thing. But if it were to be somebody like the Hope Partnership or Habitat, and I think they would be aware of these kinds of resources as well. So
I agree. John, you trying to get in there? Still with us, John?
Mike? Yes, Mike.
Yeah.
Still with you. And you actually recapped what I was going to say about the building committee, and it'll all fall in place. So we're good.
Thanks, John. Karen?
Sorry, I was on mute. No,
Okay.
I think this is all good. I think. No, I don't have anything to add.
Okay. We're going to try and get to this next step in mid-January at the latest. Keep
Michael,
things
just a
moving.
question. Just a question came to mind, just so if, do we need to discuss maybe at our next meeting, just criteria? So if we were going to hand off to a building committee, if that's the path we take, and I'm not sure there's any other option, but so if we hand off to a building committee under the auspices of the Board of Selectmen, do we also hand off to them, rather than just having one of this commission sitting on that committee? Just afraid that there will be a loss of knowledge. So, so the transition of knowledge for the intent of affordable housing, the percentage of AMI, the qualification of a homeowner that's in a situation they need to get out of. Alice, reports that, I'm just worried that there will be.
Jen, I'd hate to interrupt Jen, but wouldn't that be a subset of our committee? So they would report back to us?
No, I don't know. I'm not sure. Is that?
I'm just saying that seems the most logical, because we've brought it this far where.
But I haven't heard that before, so.
Yeah, I'm not sure, John. We'll have to take it up with the Board of Selectmen, but regardless
Sure.
of what the org chart look like? I would say that it would probably more like two of us would be part of the building committee. And I would
agree.
say that the explicit responsibility of whoever of us was on that committee would be to make sure that that knowledge came in.
Okay.
I expect open space would be part of it because they have knowledge of the easements and the history. So they have a lot of knowledge to bring in. So I'm quite confident they'd want to be, and even if not, would need to be part of any building committee. And then that would be augmented with folks who had the development experience, and actually add to that base of knowledge so that the project would come together. Some of the legal and procedural aspects. So yeah, it would have to be the building committee. I envision would be pretty diverse in terms of the knowledge we brought in. But I would definitely see it as our job to bring in what you just described, Jen, the affordable housing policy, regulatory, all of the numbers associated with it, and hopefully some of the experience of what it takes to build these projects.
Yeah, should we lay that out perhaps for our next meeting, just to do a pro forma of what that might look like?
Yeah, I think that'd be really good, and it would be part of, I think, what we would be. So I would say the next step now is to actually come up with a proposal to bring in front of the Board of Selectmen. We're not going to get that done tonight, and that would be joint with the Open Space Commission. And so the short answer is yes. I think. What would the process look like? What would the composition of the building committee, and not just what the composition of the building committee would be, to your excellent point, what are the key knowledge bases that would need to be brought into this to make it successful?
Yes.
And then who represents those knowledge bases, and how do we get access to it?
Okay.
And I'm expecting, if not assuming, that there would be some professionals that would need to be engaged, some engineers, legal.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So what we're saying is that we're going to propose to the selectmen at some point a committee, a building committee for the two specific McCullough properties, and potentially the subdivision, if you will, of the two other Hope properties and the road adjoining them, that would go from soup to nuts, basically, and go from the ground up to get the permits and whatever we need, and the building up and qualifying the homeowners.
From
And
concept to occupancy.
right. So from, yeah, soup to occupancy. All right. And figure out what the road provisions and, you know, everything. So they would do the detailed work around the entire project plan of that entire 4-home subdivision, if you will.
Not necessarily. I think that it would be focused on the two that would be the actual development, and then we would need to consider that how the other two would fold into that.
Yeah, I mean, there
It
would,
could influence the thinking on it, but not necessarily be part of the project.
yeah, because there would definitely be effects to those two other homes. So
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
And I would see this next phase not coming before the Board of Selectmen, Planning, Finance with a fully baked plan. It would be coming forward with a fairly well described concept, but it would want to be a discussion. We'd want to consult with them as well as advance the ideas. And so I would think a plan would come forth from that discussion, not just say, here's a plan, up or down. It would be more of a conversation.
Right. So, yeah, because so just for our discussion, so, you know, we have some time, obviously, to execute this plan on these two properties. So, so we don't need to rush into it by any means, as
Right.
far as like January, we need to do this, February, we need to do that, which, so what I would like to see is maybe us lay out whatever that timeline that we think is that we need, maybe that comes after, the other work that we're doing from Rivercog. I see that as a separate effort.
is.
And the McCulloch property is a entity unto itself. And should we maybe put together a project plan for the McCulloch property as far as timing goes for 2022, where we can say, we need to get in front of these people at these times and we need to do this and that. Do we even know, like, do we know if the septic, perk tests and everything came back? I don't even know that we've heard of that yet.
We haven't gotten it back yet, and Amanda's still working on getting those.
That's been 7 months, so.
In terms of a project plan,
So,
my reaction is that might be for this next discussion with the Board of Selectmen, might be getting out over our skis a little bit. I think
okay,
we want to have some ideas on how it would go, but I'd envision it would be more of a conversation on the concept. I mean, we
Okay.
haven't, I mean, I think the first level of buy-in is to get buy-in on this overall strategy of having the town retain the parcels. And
100%. Yeah, no, 100%. I just want to, maybe I'm skipping ahead too far. So I just want to make sure that, should they buy in to this awesome plan, that then we have some substance behind it, that,
Yep.
so that's all I'm thinking about.
no, I think everything you described, if everything works out as we hope, we're going to have to tackle.
Okay. We'll leave it for next time then.
And to your point, yeah, we have some time, but time is also going by. We're over 2 years into the 5-year burn.
Right.
Time goes by quickly.
It does. In government work, it goes very slowly, but
Yeah. So
Michael, it seems like a long time for those results on the land, no?
yeah.
yeah, and Amanda had said that she's been asking, and so she's going
Michael,
back.
usually that's something that happens. They'll look at it and tell them the same day. But I don't
Yep.
understand. Been involved
I don't
with a
know.
lot of these.
Yeah, I don't know where the holdup is, but
Okay.
the initial readout was no one seems to be concerned that it's going to be bad news.
Okay.
One way to find out.
Do we
Well,
have a guesstimate when we can expect those?
Yeah, the guesstimate was a couple of months ago. But
Well, I mean, if we can't get the information from them, maybe we need to go to Plan B and have the town officials come do it, like the Public Works or something.
they did.
Well, no, Ledgelight was out. They had to have Ledgelight out there, so
Yeah.
you probably call Ledgelight and ask.
Oh,
So
is there a reason? Are we reluctant to do that? Is there a reason?
Yeah, it's FOI.
the Open Space Commission has this. They paid for it. They contracted for it. So we'll work through them on this. But I'm very confident that Amanda is
I
aware.
meant you could, meaning Amanda could.
Yeah, and I'm very confident that Amanda is very aware of this and anxious about it and is pursuing it. So
Okay.
Michael, do you see much more needed than the outline that pretty much is provided in this document for the discussion with the council? With the Board of Selectmen?
yeah, and picking up on some of Jen's points, the questions are going to come up. So I think we're going to want to know at least what some of the possible solutions to some of these bedeviling details would look like, even if it's not set in stone, that we at least have some thinking coming in about what the solutions could be and what we'd like to see them be. But at least have the ingredients identified for the recipe, even if we haven't fully baked the cake.
So I think the McCulloch property is I guess coming along okay because of the Open Space Commission. So then we have the just generic operating plan, which Rivercog has been is going to now join with us and figure out what our plan is as far as that deliverable goes. And then, so on the ARP slash sort of potential other resources, do you know if anything's happening on that committee as far as allocation of resources from the American Rescue Plan funds?
Yes, and let's hold that, Jen, and wrap up the McCulloch item, and then we'll take that up under agenda item 4.
Okay, sir. Sorry. Yep.
No worries. Just I had reckoned we'd pick that up under 4.
Okay.
So anything else on McCulloch? We'll take this up again at our January meeting, and there'll likely be some updates in between. All right, then we'll move on. I'll just comment briefly that based on the special meeting we just had and in this last agenda item, we've made some pretty good progress on our two top priorities for the year. So, thank you. Things are moving. Okay. Item 4, other business. So Jen, you'd asked about the Arpa Committee. You may have seen there's been a Limelight article, and I've been tracking their minutes. They are in a phase now where they're still collecting information. So they just posted a survey for townspeople to take and for business people to take on how they have been impacted by the pandemic. So it's looking like their first take on this is to focus on the recovery aspects and take some community input on what the impacts of the pandemic have been, so that they can at least compile some raw information on what the impacts have been and what possible recovery activities might be fundable. I also saw that.
Lime website?
Say again?
That's on the Town of Old Lyme website?
It's on the town website, and there's an article in Limelight
Oh, okay.
on it. Yep. I also saw in the minutes that the Community Foundation of Eastern Connecticut had gotten on their agenda and suggested that I can't remember what percentage of it is of our funding was, but a meaningful percentage actually go to safe and affordable housing.
Right.
So we have another looking at that. So based on my interpretation of what I'm seeing in their minutes and on their actions, they're taking a fairly deliberative approach on this, and they're collecting some information first, which I think is good, rather than jump immediately to proposals.
Yep.
Mike, I don't want to jump in and off track, but everybody should take that survey, because affordable housing is one of the focuses, and it asks you to prioritize your view in Old Lyme of what you feel needs to be prioritized and maybe hasn't been to this point, and where the funds could be used.
Thanks, George.
Yeah, good to know, because I didn't even know there was a survey, so that's great.
I opened it, but I didn't take it. I said, okay, I'll get back to this. You've reminded me now to get back to it. Just the last couple of days, maybe out for less than a week, I think.
Yeah, it's relatively recent. I don't know what the close date is for it. But to George's point, I think it would be good if we all jumped in and took it and told our friends.
I agree.
Okay, anything else on this or any other business? All right, hearing none then. We'll move on to item 5, which is correspondence. I have none to report. Anyone else?
Nope. Did we ever hear back, Michael, from Hope about the tax abatement issue and anything from the other property owner?
No, my understanding is that's in the ball's in the court of the Board of Selectmen at this point. And we've kind of idled our discussion on that while we're sorting out where we get to with Hope. I think I hope we can reactivate that once we have an agreed approach for the 2 McCulloch properties. It might make the decisions easier. Hopefully will.
Yep, makes sense.
Okay, correspondence done. Upcoming meetings, January. I don't have the date right in my head. Do I still have my calendar open? I do. So our next meeting will be on January 19th. That'll be, I'm guessing we're going to want to do another special meeting. Actually, our meetings start at 5 now. So if we want to do a special, if we want to extend it, we can just put a workshop item in that agenda, so we don't have to use a special meeting to make for an earlier start. So we'll consult on agenda items after the holidays. Based on everything going on, it's very likely we'll be doing something for McCulloch. We'll have between now and then, I expect that we'll have if at least some email communication, and as I said before, possibly a special meeting, which would hopefully be a quick one to accept any proposal from the consultant so we can keep moving forward with RiverCog and SLR on the 830J plan. So watch the space for that. Otherwise, we'll be back to a full agenda in January. One other thing to think about, you'll recall that this year we got a late start. The commission wasn't appointed until April. We didn't start meeting until May. Most commissions are on a calendar year cycle with the appointments being done in January. So if not in January, then depending on when the Board of Selectmen does appointments at the meeting after that, so this might be January or February, depending on the actual dates of the Selectmen's meeting. I consulted with the Selectmen's office on this, and it would probably make sense to do officer elections at whatever meeting we have that's a meeting immediately following the appointments by the Board of Selectmen. And what that would do is just put our officer election schedule back on track with the rest of the boards and commissions, since we got a mid-year start. So there's not much to do about that. It's other than we'll watch the space. So that'll be coming up in one of the first 2 meetings of next year. If the appointments are done prior to our meeting, and put it on the agenda for our January meeting. If they're done after our meeting in January, we'll put it on February. But that'll basically adjust us onto the calendar year cycle along with the other boards and commissions.
Okay. Sounds good. Just a thought, Michael. So at our January 19th meeting, which will be 1 to 3 weeks away from the proposal for the communications consultant, should we have the communications consultant meet with us on the 19th?
And if not the 19th, if they're prepared to go earlier, Jen, I think we're going to have to meet with them, and it'll be on the agenda. Okay. Either as output from a meeting that's already happened or to meet in real time with them.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how they're gonna get our thoughts before they prepare for something that's coming up in 3 to 4 weeks after that, so.
Yeah, again, watch this space. We're going to have to do some special meetings as needed with subsets of our commission. And then
Okay.
by the 19th, I hope we have a pretty good framework
Oh, by the 19th,
by the
okay,
19th. Yeah, we'll at least have some ideas on that, that we can iterate on.
okay, that sounds good. I just wanna make sure it was on your calendar.
Oh, definitely. That's going to be for the first 6 months or 5 months of 22. I expect that they're going to mirror the last 5 months of 21, which is 830J and McCulloch.
Lucky you.
Well, it's nice to have clear priorities.
It is. Okay, I just wanna make sure.
And we'll want to track that ARPA project too, Jen.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk with Kevin and Joe, in Norway and see what we can do.
And I'll put one other upcoming agenda item, which is I didn't put it on tonight's meeting because it's the last one of the year and we've got a little time on this, but I do want to put back on the agenda developing our capacity, our advisory capacity, and in general, and in specifically with regards to the PA 2129 that has some of those zoning provisions around accessory dwelling units and some provisions around affordable housing. We're going to want to, and the town is going to have some decisions to make, and we're going to want to put ourselves in a position to offer our take on that in early 2022, sorry. So that's going to go back on the agenda as well.
Okay. Cool.
And of course, if anything else comes up, that's comes over the transom, we'll deal with it. And if any of you think of what we need, something we need to engage, we'll deal with it.
Will do.
So as it sits, we're on for January 19th as a calendared regular meeting, and we're likely to have at least one, maybe more special meetings to keep the ball rolling on McCulloch, the consultants, and the 830J plan.
Okay.
So anything else on meetings and agendas? Okay. That brings us to item 7, which is public comment. From the WebEx panel, I see here that it's just us, but I will pause for a moment in the event that anything technical is preventing me from seeing someone who is dialed in. And hearing none, we will close the public comment, which puts us at item 8, which is adjournment. And before we do that, I just wanted to say thank you so much to all of you. I counted up, and this is we're coming to the close of our 16th meeting of this year, starting in May. So we've had, yeah. So we've done a lot of work, and I think it's starting to show up in terms of the progress we're making on the planning and on the McCulloch option, which was our top 2 priorities. And I think the hard work is showing, and I really am grateful for all your engagement and all the time we put into this. So thank you. And take a well-deserved break coming up, and we'll be talking to the consultants, and we'll be keeping some fires burning through the holidays, and we'll be jumping right back on it after the new year. But in the meantime, I want to just wish you all very happy holidays with my thanks.
You too, Michael.
Thank you.
Awesome job.
Michael.
Thank you, Michael, for all your hard work. I concur and have a very happy holidays to everyone.
Mike, thanks for your leadership.
We're in a pretty good place, I think, because of the work you've done. So thank you.
It's just beginning.
Enjoy the holidays.
Yep. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
So with that, I will look to adjourn 2021,
Another year.
our inaugural year.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
All right, John.
Okay, we got another permutation on the motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you
All right,
again.
great.
You all
Thanks, guys.
enjoy.
Have a great holiday.
Too, and stay tuned on your email for that potential special meeting. We'll stay in touch. Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Merry
Take good
Christmas,
care.
everyone.
Bye.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.